Day 5 at the Miami Open without starting with the match between Chris Eubanks and Dan Evans. That is what live tennis is about. Welcome back, friends. Welcome to Ground Pass on Site. I am back, chilled, ready to go to sleep, but gonna record the recap just before I do. And still on a high from that match. Chris Eubanks is playing at the Miami Open. It is where he made his big breakthrough last year, if anyone remembers. It's where he finally, after working so hard, broke into the top 100. It was a very emotional time. He got to the quarterfinals and lost to Daniil Medvedev in the quarterfinals last year. And he's back this year trying to defend those points. It's a lot of points to defend. And in his first match against Dan Evans, it was tight. He won the first set, lost the second set, and the third set went into a tiebreak. The crowd slowly grew throughout the match, and by the tiebreak in the third set, the stadium, it was court one was packed. He had a contingency there of Georgia Tech tennis players, the university that he went to, and it was a scene. It was so good. It's what I think is the best part of coming to these live tournaments and seeing and enjoying tennis in person. It's why I think if you have a tournament near you and you can go, it's well worth it to just have these moments. You never know what's going to happen on some tiny, small court one at the corner of the stadium when no one's watching. So that was a really, really great match. It's one of those things where you can't watch a replay. It's hard to translate those vibes through the television, but it was a great moment, and definitely why you should be going to tournaments to see some live tennis. Good win for Chris Eubanks. Again, like I said, it's a lot of points to defend, and he moves on now to the next round. Dan Evans played a great match. I like Dan Evans' style. It's very scrappy. He's always slicing and dicing, but he couldn't really make it through in this match. I kind of started at the end there, but it's the first thing I remember, and I think it's the thing I'm going to take away from today. But the day started out with rain, like we expected, but by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, it had started to clear out, and they were drying the courts with the vapors. I now have a name for them. There are these vacuum cleaner type drying machines that dry the courts of Miami really, really quick. I think every single tournament should have them. If you have ever seen, a tennis court being dried after a rain delay, usually what happens is you have a bunch of ball kids with towels wiping down the court like it's 1974. It's incredible to me that is just still how most courts are dried. So whatever this company is, whoever can organize it, James Blake, I'm talking to you. If you could just spread the word to other tournaments to get this fast drying courts with these machines, and let's move on into the 21st century. But yeah, courts were dried pretty quickly, and then the matches were on. I started with Jasmine Paolini's match, and it was super quick. It's a match that had already started yesterday and was put on hold because of the rain. So she came in and was able to close out the match very quickly, which for her was very good because it started off rainy and chilly, but the moment the sun came out, it was hot and humid. The temperature on the weather app said like 70s, and the highs were in the 70s. it felt like a million degrees on court. So we had a couple of retirements today that might or may or might not have been weather related, but we did have a few retirements that than usual, I would say. One of those retirements, unfortunately, was Tommy Paul. That wasn't weather related. He sprained his ankle. We've heard now, after the fact, that it is not as bad as it looked at the time, but it looked pretty bad. It's the same ankle that he sprained or twisted at Indian Wells in his match against Daniil Medvedev. So I'm glad that it isn't too bad. His team is saying he might be out anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. So hopefully he will be able to jump onto the clay. He will probably miss the U.S. men's clay tournament, but will get onto the clay swing in Europe. Then it was off to watch Leylah Fernandez. A really tough match that she managed to grit out in the end. I think when I first looked at the scores, she was leading 5-love, and I remember thinking, oh, this might be quick. Let me go just watch some other matches and some other courts. I looked at my app, the Miami Open app, for the scores, and Amelia Arango, Colombian player, had gotten all the breaks back and was making this match a tough one for Leylah Fernandez. So I went over there to see what was up, and it was just a really tough match, I think, for Leylah Fernandez. She seemed to be having a little trouble with her serve and just, having confidence on court. She was able to grit it out in the end with a lot of encouragement from her coach and her team and her family who were there. But Amelia Arango, who played some great tennis, was definitely fighting to stay in the match. Looking forward to see more of her. She wears a backwards baseball hat a la Rune. Holger Rune, he wears one like that too most times. You don't really see that on the women's tour, so she has a sort of a little signature there, and someone definitely to look out for if you are going to tournaments. Also watched Chris O'Connell create another upset during the Sunshine Double. If you all remember, Chris O'Connell is the same Chris O'Connell who took out Jack Draper at Indian Wells in the first round, which was very surprising because Jack Draper was coming off a very, very good South American swing. And here comes Chris O'Connell and takes him out in the first round of Indian Wells. And Chris O'Connell did it again today. He took out Frances Tiafoe. And Frances Tiafoe is out of the tournament, a big upset at the Miami Open. Got to talk to Chris O'Connell in press today, and he has a single-handed backhand, something that a lot of people have talked about as a shot that might possibly go away. You don't see it a lot on tour. For the first time in a long time, we do not have one in the top 10 of the ATP. So, it's one of those shots that might not survive the test of time, but he seems to think it definitely is a shot that has potential to be tricky and damaging to the opponent. And, the way he played Frances Tiafoe today, he probably is right. And when you're thinking of Frances Tiafoe, you're probably thinking of all the other American players that went out today. I talked about Chris Eubanks earlier, so he was the one American who did well. Tommy Paul was playing against Martin Dam, another American. So we have Martin Dam there because Tommy Paul had to retire. He was in the lead, by the way, but ankle sprain took him out of the competition. And Taylor Fritz was upset today in his match and is out of the competition. So not a great day for the top seed American male players. Ben Shelton is still on the schedule for tomorrow, so let's see how he does. that was pretty much the day. It was a lot of tennis, a lot of press conferences. You know, the tennis is back at the Miami Open. The outlook for the rest of the tournament is great. Sunshine all the way. So excited to see where this tournament ends up. Oh, how could I forget? The battle of the one-handed backhands. There was a lot of one-handed backhand action happening today at the tournament, but Denis Shapovalov defeated Stefanos Tsitsipas in a rematch of a match they had the last time they played in the Miami Open. Denis Shapovalov was 19, so they definitely are older now and wiser, I would say, but the result was the same. Stefanos Tsitsipas is out of the Miami Open. I think the next time we will see him is on clay in Europe, hopefully doing better. Great win for Denis Shapovalov, who's been dealing with a knee injury, but he's feeling good on the knee and says he feels like he can go on in this tournament. Funny enough, the tournament director, James Blake, is also someone who's been mentoring Shapovalov. He didn't say he was coaching him, but he said he'd been having conversations with him. So who knows? There's a very thin line between a coach and a mental coach and someone who's simply just advising you. So yeah, I had to put that one in because that was also another big result from the day. That's all I've got for you today. Recap-wise, the tennis is back, the weather is back, the sunshine's back in Miami. Excited for the big day tomorrow, and I will be back with you then. Bye.